Part 2, Chapter 11, Killing Mr. Griffin. That sounds like him, the bastard. F's for everybody, so they'll try harder. Anything else? Not really. We talked about the test, where I had made mistakes and stuff like that, and some about Shakespeare, what he meant by certain lines that I hadn't understood. When it was over and we started to leave, he started talking about Hamlet's feeling of guilt over Ophelia's death and whether or not that really changed him as a person. That's why I had to walk out of the parking lot with him. I hadn't meant to, but I couldn't just say, "So long," and walk away from him when he was in the middle of a sentence and he seemed to take it for granted that I was going out that way. So you walked him out to the lot, and then he asked if he could give me a ride home. No, he didn't. He didn't? Susan asked blankly. Nope. He had other plans. And taking you home would have interfered with them. In fact, all the while you were having your conference, he acted sort of peculiar. He kept checking his watch and glancing out the window. Sometimes you'd ask him a question and he'd act like he didn't hear you. His mind was on something else. But that's not true, Susan said. Sure it is. How else would a guy act who had a woman on his mind? I don't understand. When you walked out to the parking lot with a guy, you started off in the direction of home. And then something about the way he'd been acting made you look back. He was getting into his car and there was a woman in it. But there wasn't. A real doll, blonde and boxy. Young, maybe 22 or so. And really sexy. Sitting up front, right next to the driver's seat. I can't say a thing like that, Susan exclaimed. Of course you can. You can say anything you want. You're the last one who saw him, aren't you? Who else is going to know who was in that car? You're the one who saw him get into it and drive away. But why? Susan asked. Why make up something like that? What good will it do? It'll lead them away from us. Right now, who do they have to suspect of having a hand in this? Students. Maybe not us exactly, but students in general. Who else did Mr. G have in his life? And when they start going over the students in his classes, they're going to zero in on a few people who have had some bad problems with him. That means me and maybe Jeff. And once they hit on us, it'll follow pretty quick that the rest of you get nailed too. So what do? We throw in a foxy lady and right away there's a whole new look to things. There's a secret part of Mr. G's life that nobody knows about. Who is this chick? Where did she come from? How come they are driving off together? Who's going to think about students when there's a love interest to worry over? I can't do that, Mark, Susan said shakily. Mr. Griffin was married. You know, how would his wife feel hearing something like that? She'd think he ran out on her. What's so bad about that? It's a kindness, baby. If she loved the guy, and it's hard to believe anyone could, wouldn't she rather think of him off having a good time someplace, even if it wasn't with her, than dead? Well, when you put it like that, you'd better get moving. We've been standing here talking 5 minutes, and they're down there at the office waiting for you. Mark, come with me, Susan said pleadingly. I just can't do it by myself. We could say you were with me after school, that you waited for me till the conference was over, that you and I both saw the woman in the car. No way, Mark said firmly. You're Miss Innocence. Stick me in this picture and we've lost the ball game. You can do it. You'll do just great. I'm scared. Don't be. It'll be simple as pie. A girl like you who's going to doubt her. Now, on with the show, baby, and remember, I'm counting on you. He laid his hand briefly on her shoulder. I'll try, Susan drew in a long breath, and after school, you just go on home like you would on any other day. This is your part. This is your part now. When you've carried this through, it's over. The rest of us will take care of the other part. The bit of the mountains and moving the car and whatever. Okay? Okay, Susan said. If you say so, Mark. She took a few steps down the hall and stopped abruptly as he said, Sue? What? Relax, will you? Don't walk in there looking like you're facing a firing squad. Remember, you don't know a thing about why they're calling you. It might be for something great, like telling you you're going to be named Student of the Year. He stood quietly, watching with narrowed eyes as she continued down the hall to the office door. She paused and looked back at him. He raised his hand in a small, encouraging wave. Susan opened the door and went inside. Christ, Mark said softly under his breath. He bent over the fountain and took a drink.